Today, we're talking about the stuff most of us were never told by our doctors. If you've been diagnosed with pre or type 2 diabetes, or if you know someone who has, this is a very important video. Type 2 diabetes is something that we should take seriously. Now, keep watching to the end because there is a simple way to reverse type 2 diabetes easily and within a few weeks, usually, by changing what you eat. And this isn't about the so-called healthy, balanced diet that we've all heard about that's part of our government guidelines and which doesn't work for most people. You've probably tried it yourself. This way of eating that I'm going to talk about today is very effective at reversing type 2 diabetes. And also, it won't have you feeling starving. So why should we take diabetes seriously? Diabetes is a huge problem. Over 529 million people worldwide are living with type 2 diabetes. And more than half of the adults in the UK and in the US are either diabetic or pre-diabetic. Yet, that's right, half. It's such a massive issue, yet it's not treated with the urgency which it deserves. Why? Because type 2 diabetes can be managed with drugs. That means that your type 2 diabetes is not getting better. It's often, well, it can only get worse unless you change your eating. So the drugs are simply managing some of the symptoms. And some of the drugs have side effects. Well, all drugs have side effects, but some of them can actually deteriorate your health. Now, of course, I'm not saying don't take your drugs or do take your drugs. I'm just giving the information that might help you to reverse your diabetes, and this method will work on its own. So if you're not yet on drugs, it's a great place to start. If you're already on drugs, talk to your doctor before you change your diet. So the bad news is that type 2 diabetes is life or death serious, and I'm going to explain exactly why. And the good news is that type 2 diabetes can be reversed, and the same is true for pre-diabetes. Your doctor likely told you it's a progressive disease, meaning it'll just get worse and worse, and that's not true. But if you don't reverse your type 2 or your pre-diabetes, it can have devastating effects on your health. Diabetes can shorten your lifespan on average by a third. Diabetes increases your risk of blindness. Diabetes increases your risk of limb amputation. Yes, this really shocked me. 25 people every single day are losing hands, feet, limbs, parts of limbs through amputation because of type 2 diabetes, which is a totally reversible disease. And for the vast majority of them, their doctor will never have told them, in all the years they've been seeing them, that type 2 diabetes can be reversed through a change of diet. I find that incredibly shocking in this day and age where there's so much information. So it increases your risk of amputation, it increases your risk for 8 cancers, it increases your risk of heart attack and stroke, it increases your risk of immune conditions, type 2 diabetes, increases your risk of digestive issues, increases your risk of depression, increases your risk of dementia. I could go on. There are so many chronic diseases which are exacerbated by type 2 diabetes. In fact, it's almost as though the processes through which you get type 2 diabetes make your body so sick that these other diseases happen, these other chronic diseases. And I'm going to talk about that in this video. Again, I want to remind you, I don't want anyone feeling disheartened by this because this is reversible. And I want you to share this video with anyone you care about who might need to hear this message. So what is diabetes? Exactly. In simple terms, it's high blood sugar. That's why doctors measure the sugar in your blood to be able to make the diagnosis. When your blood sugar rises, a hormone called insulin comes out to move the sugar out of the blood and keep it within the narrow, healthy range. Humans have a very narrow range for sugar. Insulin signals the body cells, especially the muscles, the liver, and the fat tissue, to absorb the glucose from the bloodstream. And this glucose is then used as energy or it's stored as fat for later use. If there's more sugar in the blood than the body needs right away, the insulin stores the excess as glycogen in the liver. That can lead to fatty liver, or it stores it in the muscles. That can lead to visceral fat. And because we're having healthy carbs for breakfast, lunch, and dinner with snacks in between, we're swimming in sugar. It's damaging our cells every day for weeks, months, years, leading to health complications over time. And high levels of insulin promote that fat storage, as insulin encourages the body to store any excess glucose as fat. With type 2 diabetes and even with pre-diabetes, you're already likely to be insulin resistant. This means it's easier for you to store fat, it's harder for you to burn fat, and to add insult to injury, you have more sugar cravings. If you feel like it's harder for you to lose weight, it's because it is. And the food solution I'm sharing with you today will make it a whole lot easier. And that hormonal issue with insulin is why the healthy diet, healthy balanced diet, often will not work. I'll talk about insulin more in another video because I want to keep these videos really short and to the point. And this one is about why to take your diabetes seriously. So let's talk about that. High insulin is a much earlier sign of type 2 diabetes than high blood sugar. So high insulin is like the pre-diabetes. It's a continuum. It starts with high insulin. Then you move into pre-diabetes as your insulin stops working. And then you move into diabetes where you're in high blood sugar states for much longer. You do not want to be anywhere on that continuum. Being on that continuum damages your health massively in the ways that we've already talked about. It increases your risks of all-cause mortality. That means of death by any cause. So you want to be in the healthy blood sugar range. And you can absolutely reverse the type 2 diabetes and the other disease processes simply by lowering your blood sugar. This will lower your insulin and help you get back to healthy metabolism. And here's a fact that might surprise you. It really surprised me. The gap between a healthy blood sugar level and a damaging one is really small. An HbA1c is the average of your blood sugar levels in the preceding 3 months. You may have had one of these with your standard health blood tests. So up to 5.6 is considered normal. Between 5.7 and 6.4 indicates prediabetes, and above 6.5 or higher indicates diabetes. Now, many health doctors who talk about this way of eating prefer to see a lower blood sugar. They prefer to see a rate under 5, and I think that makes sense because the higher your blood sugar, the more damaging it is to your body. So that's the average over 3 months. But if you take your blood sugar at home using a blood sugar monitor, you'll see a measure either in milligrams per deciliter, if you're in America and some other countries, or in millimolar, which I'll come to in a moment. So a normal pre-diabetic and diabetic fasting blood sugar levels are as follows. In milligrams per deciliter, we've got normal under 100 milligrams per deciliter, pre-diabetic 100 to 125 milligrams per deciliter, and diabetic over 126 milligrams per deciliter on 2 separate tests, because your blood sugar will go up and down. It will vary according to what you've eaten. So today we're talking about the fasting blood sugars. These are the blood sugar tests taken after you haven't eaten for a while. And then if you're in the UK, like I am, and in other countries, you'll see those blood sugar readings in millimolars. And millimoles, I call them millimolars, but in millimoles. And so you'll see the normal there that's talked about by the NHS and other health organisations. They see normal as less than 5.6 millimoles per litre, pre-diabetic as 5.6 to 6.9 millimoles per litre, and diabetic as 7 or higher millimoles per litre. You can see the ranges are quite tight, and to become healthy, all we need to do is reduce our blood sugar. So when I go on to the Diabetes UK website, and it's so confusing about what you should eat, and they're talking about healthy carbs and that, all we need to do is reduce our blood sugar, and we're going to talk about how to do that. Here's something that a lot of people don't know. Your body is naturally only designed to handle about 6 grams of sugar at a time. 6 grams. It's a very small amount. When you think of a little sugar cube, it's about 4 grams. So it's just over a sugar cube of sugar that we're designed to have at any one time in our bloodstream. So when we're loading up on sugary foods or high carb meals every day, our blood sugar goes from water-based, doing its job, minding its own business, into syrup. Now, this is like what would happen if you took a glass of water and poured sugar into it. It becomes thick and syrupy and gooey. Now, that sticky blood sticks to parts of your body where it shouldn't stick, causing a process called glycation. It gums up the works, increasing your risk of everything from heart disease to strokes. That's why type 2 diabetes is deadly and it shouldn't be ignored. Type 2 diabetes doubles your chances of dying from any cause. And that's why, yes, we should take this diagnosis seriously. And also know, as I've mentioned so many times, because many doctors will tell you can't, and I want to let you know you absolutely can reverse your diagnosis, reverse your type 2 diabetes, reverse your pre-diabetes simply by changing what you eat, and it doesn't have to be difficult. So I know you're thinking, oh, okay, all I need to do is avoid sugar, right? And you're spot on. We all know that cakes, biscuits, chocolates, and sweets are sugar. It's not just what we take out of the diet that's important. It's also what we eat in its place. It's important in bringing you back to that vibrant health, reversing that type 2 diabetes and the other chronic conditions that come with it. Now, watch part 2 in this series to find out exactly what to eat to reverse your type 2 diabetes or pre-diabetes without feeling hungry. If you got value out of this video, please hit subscribe and hit like. And don't forget to share this information to someone if you think they need to hear it. I'll see you back here next time to talk about the foods you need to eat, the real foods that are going to help you to do this without feeling hungry, without feeling unsatisfied, and to do this with ease. See you next time. Stay healthy, sexy people.